Welcome. My name is Mario Batali, and this is Molto Mario. I'm here with my good friends Jake, Maggie, and Naomi, and we're talking about La Cucina Italiana. And today we're making a little bit of a departure. We're going to actually make something that I almost claim never to exist. That's right, Italian desserts. We're going to make things that are very simple, very much part of the Italian vernacular, but you'll understand when we taste these that the Italians don't make such a big thing about it. They tend not to make soufflés. And in fact, today we're going to make a ciambella, then we're going to make a zabaglione, then we're going to make little pine nut cookies, and then we're going to finish it all with little clementines with vinegar and pepper. Now, the first thing you have to realize when you're making desserts that often enough, the Italian culture really doesn't eat their dessert at the end of the lunch or at the end of the dinner. They tend to eat their desserts in the middle of the afternoon because that's when Grandma gets the opportunity to break out a little bit of vin santo and get going at 4 o'clock. So that's what this first one is. And they would serve it at the end of the meal sometimes, but it's not the reason this exists. And a lot of the desserts are kind of dry, cakey little things that really need that vin santo to be dipped into. But we're going to make one with just a little bit of berries, and this would be one that you'd make in the, I don't know, the middle of summer when you have your raspberries, your blackberries, any kind of berries you can find. If it was grapes or if it was anything other than that, it would all be fine. The whole idea behind understanding great Italian cooking is that the substitution something is exactly what we're looking for. It's what you want to do. So if you couldn't find any of these, use something else. You could use pieces of orange. You could make an applesauce out of this. The potential is endless. So we're just going to make a little sauce just by putting these berries in here. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of lemon juice. Anybody can make this at home. Now, the cake itself is called the ciambella because it's a ring. And we're going to form it into a ring, but it's easy to do. And we're going to use the food processor. And we're going to take 2½ cups of flour, 1 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of baking powder, and 8 tablespoons of sweet butter cut into little cubes and relatively soft. Not room temperature, but softer than ice cold. And then we're just going to zap it like that. So this is what the pastry chefs do all day, huh?
Do they stay later on at the restaurant?
They get there earlier and they leave right... Well, actually, the pastry plater at the restaurant is the person that has to close the restaurant because they have to wait till the last person has their dessert. But the pastry chef's also the first person to get in. So it's a thankless long job. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make this into a dough. We're going to take 1/3 cup of milk, 1 egg, and the tiniest little bit of almond extract. If you didn't have almond extract, any one of those fancy liqueurs that you have around the house, amaretto, any one of those kind of sweet ones would work. It's just a flavoring and it's not that big of a deal. Now we're going to go until it just forms that ball right there. That's where you want to stop it. You don't want to overwork this because in developing the gluten while working through the flour, what you would develop would be something that would be firm and kind of hold its shape like bread, which is what we want it to do if it's bread. But not if it's a cake or a pastry. We want it to be tender and flaky like a biscuit. So if you're familiar with ever making anything like biscuits or muffins, they'll always tell you in the instructions to just bring it together and not stir it too much. They'll tell you, and that's it.
There's nothing in there but sugar.
Stir for 1 minute as opposed to 45 minutes, or 45 beats or whatever it is. Longer than a minute is going to develop the gluten. And what that gluten does is it causes it to be firm, which is not where you want to be. Now, we're going to take a little bit of what we call bench flour. This came together already in there. Had you done this in the style of the grandma, if we were actually making this in Italy, we would have put all the ingredients on the table. We would have dug our little well there. We would have done it in the center, which is what we want to do. Then we would have brought all the ingredients together, and it would have happened just about as easily or as quickly as this. Then we're going to take this dough that we have here, and without working it too much, form it into a dough. So now we roll it out like that, and basically just form it into... This is why it's called the ciambella, because ciambella means this kind of a ring shape. Then we just put it on a greased cookie sheet. And when I say greased, I'm talking about a greased cookie sheet. And then we dust it with just a little bit more sugar to kind of form that crust.
Will it burn?
The sugar will actually... The sugar will actually, in its own little way, at this point, because we're not going to cook it for a long time, is just going to kind of form this kind of glisten over the top. And if you wanted it to look matte, then you wouldn't put any sugar on it at all. You just allow it to kind of sit there. But in this case, we're actually going to put that sugar on, and it will turn kind of shiny. This goes in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. And then you come over here and you make sure that your sauce is going good. And that's it. This kind of volcanic thing of juice. Oh, come on.
Oh, look at that.
For a young fellow like me who grew up in Washington State, this is as good as it's going to get. Just because I mean, you could take my shoes after working in the kitchen all day and put this kind of blackberry thing on top. We're good. We're good to go. And then you just carve it up like so. And maybe you'll serve the sauce on the side if you don't think that all of your friends are going to finish it. Because then you'd want to save a little bit for Grammy.
Oh, my God.
Naomi?
Thank you.
This would make a fine Italian breakfast, too, wouldn't it?